Hey everybody, I'm Justin Bogard from Bright Path Notes, and this is the February 2021 Real Estate Notes Be the Bank Meetup. Well, hey there, if it isn't my good buddy, Mr. Richard Thornton. How's it going, man?
Pretty good. How about you, sir?
I'm doing fantastic.
Great.
All right, buddy. Is it cold out where you're at right now?
You know, cold in California is all relative, right? I mean, yeah, it's a cold 55 degrees.
Oh, yeah. Well, there's snow on the ground here in the Indy area, so it's actually quite chilly. We've been getting under 20-degree temperatures, so I'm sure you're jealous.
I'm very jealous. That's right.
Yeah. Well, welcome, everybody. This is, like I said, my friend Richard Thornton. He's in California, so we don't like him that much. I'm just kidding. Were you ever in the Midwest? You ever live in the Midwest?
I have not lived there. I actually lived back east for 16 years. Lived in Connecticut and Washington, D.C.
Okay, in D.C., huh?
Mm-hmm. All right. But all my roots are from the Midwest. I come from good Norwegian stock, and you know, my mom was 100% Norwegian and lived in South Dakota, and my dad grew up in Arkansas. So, okay,
is that why you're so tall?
It partially is. My sister is over 6 feet tall. Also, I have 3 kids, but I have a son who's 6'5" and a daughter who's 6'1".
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So you guys have all been stretched.
We've all been stretched. That's right.
Stretched. Right on. Well, Richard has a note business just like I do. So his company is American Note Capital, right?
That's right.
Right. So Richard and I have been buddies for a few years. We run into each other in the note business quite a bit, and we collaborate. And so Richard's going to be on the meetup today to kind of help us out and to be a part of the meetup as well, and probably going to be a part of some future meetups as well.
I hope so.
Unless he disowns me after this live recording tonight.
Not going to happen. Not going to happen.
Right on. Well, let's get into things. So, Richard, I know you've been on the meetup before, and we just go through some house items here. So let's put out the disclaimer here. Sure, you've heard this or seen this before. You know, I'm not an attorney. You're not an attorney. We're not tax consultants, and we're not financial advisors. We're just note investors, and these are the experiences and the trials and tribulations we have during the note business, and we want to share it with you guys. We do have sponsors as a part of this meetup. This wouldn't be possible without sponsors. So my company, Bright Path Notes, my name's Justin Bogard, and my email is justin@brightpathnotes.com. And our slogan is, we've got the deal flow to make your cash flow. So we are sponsoring the meetup for our note deals. So we have a page that are dedicated to some notes that we have for sale, full loans and partials as well. So you can go to that URL that popped up on the screen there, brightpathnotes.com/note deals. Other sponsor is our local RIA group called Cyria. They are our real estate education group. Vicki Perry is our executive director. Her phone number and her email are right up there, executive-director@cyria.club. And they teach us everything. They teach us about landlording. They teach us about Airbnbs, notes, why people are on the call today, fix and flips, wholesaling, the BRR method, you name it in real estate. They're a great organization. They have a lot of free tools to use online. Our other sponsor is Mr. Dickie Baldwin. He has a company called Baldwin Advisory Group. He is our due diligence sponsor for the group. You see his phone number and his email address up there, and contact Dickie for title searches, BPOs, property inspections, and things like that. He's got a couple other services that he offers, but those are the main things that he is known for. So Dickie's a good guy. He's been in the business for a while. Cyria. This slide is pertinent to our Cyria members. So we have, they have a YouTube channel. They want you to follow them on Facebook, LinkedIn. I always get the IN confused with Instagram, but it's LinkedIn. The little camera below that is Instagram. So I don't know why they have such long handles, but that's the handle on this. Anyway, follow them on social media. They got a good following. They have almost 1,000 members right now, Richard, as part of that organization. It's a pretty good size there. They do have their own YouTube channel. They post a ton of videos. For those of you that are part of Cyria, you want to get out your smartphone and kind of hover your camera over that QR code. It's going to bring you to a website, which my friend Richard has put up for us. The shortened version is the bit.ly, bit.ly/Cyria notes. And you log in there, you put your name, first and last, and your email, I believe, and you enter that in there. And
Justin,
you
I
get
think a lot of
PHP
people say
credits.
Bitly.
Bitly.
They say
Thank you.
Bitly. Yep.
Bitly.
Bitly.
That's
Right.
why you're on the call. You gotta keep me in check.
That's right.
Absolutely. Okay, so Richard, we also have a RIA that's our state RIA, which is encompassing all of our smaller RIAs, if you will, like our SciRIA, and there's ones on the north, there's ones in the south, there are ones all across the state. And so collectively, we come together as a bigger group, and there's a conference that happens once a year. And the idea of it is we started the state RIA. I say we, it's other people, that not just me, that it's a lobbying effort especially for the landlord situation right now, where they're just getting dinged because renters that are not paying, they have no relief until as of recently a month ago or 2 months ago, when they actually have a landlording relief package that is only available in so much money right now. So anyways, Indiana State RIA Conference is going to be held April 15th and 17th. Coming up here, some of it's going to be in the Sheridan Hotel, and some of it's going to be like live on Zoom. So you can take advantage that way. So there are early bird pricing right now, and so please register. So the website, I don't have the website handy, but I'm sure if you go to Indiana IN State RIA, you will find information on how to register for that, or you call this phone number on the screen, which is 317-670-8491. So that is the Indiana State RIA. So we have to mention that. So my company, not my company, my podcast is called The Two Wealth Show. It's myself and my friend Super E. We talked about short-term rentals, Richard, during the SciRIA stuff that I mentioned. So she is a short-term rental expert. So she manages the properties and she gets investors involved with them and does the whole kit and caboodle. She even has her own cleaning company now. So anyways, we talk about anything and everything real estate. It could be notes. It could be short terms. It could be fix and flip rentals, what have you. What we just ideas we want to teach people about wealth. So we started a podcast about it. We also have it on pretty much any podcast directory that you can think of right now. There's like 40 of them. We also stream it live. Well, we don't stream it live. We record it on our YouTube channels as well. So you can watch the video feeds as well when we have guests and interview people on there before. You know, Richard, one thing I forgot to mention about the state RIA, there is somebody that's going to be there that you and I both have seen on YouTube quite a bit.
Who's that?
Pace Morby.
Mr. Morby. I know him very well. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So he is kind of a creative finance, I don't know if you call him a guru, but he definitely knows what he's doing. And if you haven't seen him, he's going to be a part of State RIA this year.
Yeah, he's very active on the internet. You can put in Pace Morby, it's Morby, and actually learn a lot about doing subject to financing, which we're going to talk about a little bit today. And just give you a little bit of a feel for it if you haven't done it. But you can learn a lot just by going to his YouTube channel, putting in his name, and finding out about how to do subject to financing. Absolutely.
I'm excited to go see what he has to bring to our state RIA.
Yeah, he's a pretty dynamic guy. I think you'll enjoy it.
Absolutely. Today is February 10th, and we're going to be covering the note basics, which is basically dumbing this thing down, what is note investing, and helping you understand how these notes are kind of created, and then how are we buying them, and kind of what that looks like visually. So I always start with that just to help some of our audience members that may not know what we're talking about and give them a feel for what we're doing. The mortgage industry update has been a hot topic that we've talked about just about every meetup since probably February. And because of COVID, people are having information they see on Facebook or wherever or what have you, and they're getting a lot of misinformation, Richard, and I'm sure you're running into that a lot as well. And so our job as the note guys in the business is to kind of educate you and kind of show you what the facts are, and you can make your own decisions and stuff from there. The other thing we're going to have at the end of the show today is going to be a little bit on an educational course that we've come up with, and some case studies, one of Richard's and something of mine. So without further ado, Richard, do you see any comments on in our queue right now?
I don't see any yet.
Perfect.
But, all
right.
If you have anything, if you'd like to ask any questions or anything, why, don't hesitate to ask.
That's right. If you are on Facebook, by the way, you have to give StreamYard the rights to have your name and your picture show up on StreamYard. Otherwise, you'll just be like an unknown, so we won't really know who the person is. kind of weird why they do it, but I guess there's a privacy rules out there, and we got to follow them, or they've got to follow them, I should say.
And we promise that the police will not come knocking at your door within an hour or so. Yeah.
We do. We'll give you 60 minutes.
Yeah.
All right. So these are the note basics. So we have Mr. Seller, we have Miss Buyer, and we have this house in the middle. So they agreed to some price, and that is the value of this home, right? Just pulled out of thin air. So the seller has the deed, and they're going to convey ownership to the new buyer via a warranty deed, right? So the buyer's name is going to be on this deed. The buyer probably can't pay cash for this house. So what they have to do, they have to go to the bank and get a loan. And that loan is called a note and mortgage. They sign a promissory note that I promise to pay X amount of dollars over X amount of months at X% interest rate. And the mortgage is the security instrument that ties the investment to this property. So it is with that lock and chain there, that note or that mortgage is securing the bank's interest in that debt. So the borrower, if they decide to not pay, guess what? They can take the house back as their collateral so they can recoup their capital. So that is the bank and mortgage situation. So the bank owns the note, not the house. And the buyer holds the deed to the house, and they own the house, right? So there's a lien on the house, which is the mortgage. Okay, so we have the homeowner. They own the house now. They're paying their payments to the bank. And then we have Mr. or Mrs. Investor that comes into the picture. So this is the fun part where we actually get to make money on these things. So this investor, if you imagine, it can be an LLC, it can be an LLP, it can be a corporation, it can be a trust, it can be a self-directed retirement account. Woohoo, we like those, Richard, don't we?
Mm-hmm.
So self-directed IRA, 401k, whatever it could be that has a lump sum of cash. It can be in your own name. We don't recommend that though, but it can be. You can purchase that yellow piece of paper called the mortgage note by doing this. You give the money to the bank gives you that mortgage note. So the important thing to know here is that the ownership of the house doesn't change hands. It's just the mortgage note that changes hands. So we're investing in the mortgage note, so we're buying that paper. And so now what happens with the borrowers making their payments to the bank, we'll just call it Bank of America. And then now instead of them, it's going to us because we have purchased the mortgage note. And so that is real estate note investing at its basic level. If you have questions about that, feel free to chime in at any time during this broadcast today, and we'll be glad to answer your questions. It can be about something we're talking about, or it can be about anything note related, or if you need some fashion help, maybe Richard can help you with that. I stick with the grays and the blues. That's kind of my thing.
So Justin, I didn't know that somebody could actually buy a note. Why would a bank want to sell a note?
That's a great question. I actually get that question asked a lot, and I should talk about that. So if we had some visual displays, this will probably make a lot more sense. But the best way I can explain this to people is, oops, I think I've lost my slide on the other screen. Sorry. Hang on, guys. User error. Get through this. Sorry about that. The first time for everything, right, Richard?
That's right.
So what a bank does is they have so much money to lend, right? Let's say they have $10 million to lend, and they start lending out, and they lend out $5 million, $6 million, $7 million. So they are becoming, it's becoming a problem for them because they're not going to be able to lend more money at a certain point, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what do they have to do? Well, that's great that they're making cash flow, but they need to originate loans as much as possible because that's really where they make most of their money. They make a lot of money up front with points and with lenders' fees and things like that. And so they end up selling a lot of notes like that. They end up selling to Fannie and Freddie. So the other reason why they sell these notes is because they make so much darn money in interest. If you ever notice the payment, $1,000 mortgage payment, the first time you make a payment, it's probably like $950 interest.
Right.
And $50 principal. So
Okay.
if you take that over 12 months and you see like, okay, the borrower's paying about $50 for principal every month for 12 months, I mean, they're not paying this thing down very much at all. And the bank is collecting $950 interest, give or take a few dollars every month. I mean, they're almost making $11,000 in a year, and the borrowers paid down like $500, $600.
So that means that the bank is making, actually, let's say the interest rate is posted at 6%.
Yeah.
In those first couple of years, they're actually making much more than 6%, right?
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
We have a self-directed IRA question. Do you want to field that now or later?
Sure. Let's do it now.
Okay. Let's see if I can show this. It's from Mr. Clan. So you can read the question right there.
Sure. You said you don't invest in self-directed IRA in your own name. Can you explain your options and why would you use them? Thanks for asking that question, because I probably fumbled my words and I didn't really mean for it to come out like that. What I meant to say was you shouldn't invest in your personal name. The reasons why you just don't want your name out there, and why not put yourself in a tax sheltered situation like an LLC or a corporation or your self-directed retirement account. We do invest a lot in our self-directed retirement accounts. I do. Richard does. A lot of people do. Actually, most people that get in the note business, they use their retirement account funds to grow their wealth passively in these types of investments. So hopefully that answered your question.
Let me clarify it a little bit more, in that you take your money, I take my money, and we put it into our self-directed, or any of your note buyers puts it into their self-directed IRA.
Yeah.
The self-directed IRA company acts as your custodian, because you cannot invest those funds yourself. So for me, I use a group called Entrust.
Okay.
And if I buy a note through my self-directed IRA, the owner is listed as the Entrust Group for the benefit of Richard Thornton, and then my account number and all that. And so that is the actual holder of the note, and you actually have to get them to sign all the documents and everything, which can be a little bit of a hassle sometimes, but you don't invest in your own name when you use a self-directed IRA. Yeah.
That's a good question. So thanks for bringing that up. We don't get that asked a whole lot on these broadcasts, but that was a good question. So thanks, Richard, for fielding that. Mm-hmm. So 2021, this is a slide that I'm probably going to put in every single time this year, just because it says 2021. I like imagery, so I find these cool images and I just keep them in my slides.
I think you just like that number.
Yeah. 2021.
Yeah, you just like that number.
Yeah, it's just a nice round odd number. Mm-hmm. So Richard, one of the things that we talk about often is the mortgage industry update. And so, like myself, I know that you look at the Black Knight financial data reports that come out.
I do.
And so those of you that don't know, the Black Knight financial data is a mortgage data company that takes all the mortgages that are recorded and that are aggregated from the big banks and the GSEs and the VAs and the FHAs and the securities and stuff like that. And they get all this data together and they figure out what's going on, and they show you the facts and the data and the trends as to what's going from month to month to month. So with COVID hitting us pretty hard in February, March timeframe, we all kind of felt and saw the forbearances that happened, right? We're at stay-at-home orders. There was people's jobs were put on hold or they were furloughed. And so the government had helped folks out and just kind of had a mandatory, like, okay, if they're having troubles, you need to put them in forbearance. So we don't see a lot of change in foreclosure starts. And that's why it's down 82% compared to the year before, because of the moratorium. So that number is kind of obvious that we don't see very many foreclosure starts. What is nice to see is that the delinquency rate has been coming down month after month after month since, I believe, May or June. At its worst, it was about 7.75%, and I think it's down to about 6%. And I think we got a slide about that earlier. So it was 3.56 million mortgages are seriously delinquent the month before, November. And as of the end of December, it was 3.43 million mortgages that are seriously doing it. Now, what is seriously delinquent mortgages? Those are the ones that are 90 days and beyond behind. Does that make sense? So this graph here shows, it's one of my favorite graphs. It shows what it was in 2009 compared to what it is today. So you see the peak there at the top of the mountain was when the financial crisis came, and that was the worst of the worst that happened. When we hit this COVID stuff and we were in quarantine and we were at stay-at-home orders, we had jumped up to 7 3/4, like I told you before, and then now it's been coming down pretty sharply ever since then. So it's getting really close to what normal is. So this green little squiggly line that says 4.93 at the end of it, that is about what normal is for this time period in the winter season. We're at 6.08%, so our delinquency rate is getting back to normal, which is a very, very positive sign. So the 90-day default by year. This was an interesting slide or a graph that I found on the chart report that came out. So in 2009, we keep talking about 2009 to 2020. You're going to see there's, turn my head sideways here, 4.8 million mortgages that were 90-day defaults by year. So that's taking the year's data and showing how many mortgages at some point got to the 90-day delinquent period. As of for 2020, you can see 2010 and 2020 are pretty much identical, Richard. About 3.5 million mortgages are like that. Now you can look at that graph and you can be like, holy cow, we've got a big problem here. Well, it does look like that, doesn't it? When you look at this graph, it shows like kind of getting towards doomsday. But what I'm seeing and what I'm showing you guys is that this stuff is kind of under control, and it's not getting out of control. It's been contained to a certain extent. We're going to talk about this some more. What's really interesting is what we're going to pay attention to is after March, at the end of March, is what's going to happen with these forbearances that are going to expire. So the majority of these forbearances happened in March of last year, which got the 12-month contract, if you will, on the forbearance plan. So those are coming up here in March, which a big bulk of them are. What's that number? I don't know what that number is off the top of my head, but it's a big number. So we're going to show you what we think is going to happen in the next couple of slides. But you can see in May, June, July, August, September, and so on and so forth, you can see when the expirations come for more of these loans.
Justin, does that March number take into account the latest extension?
I believe it does not. I think this, from what I read, and I've got to pull my memory now from reading this report, is that the people that were requesting a forbearance in March of 2020, their extension was 12 months, and that was it. So right. I don't believe they got any further extensions. Now, they may have been a 6-month, and then they rolled it into 6 more months. That could be the case. Mm-hmm. But I believe they've reached the point where they can't extend any further, and we're going to see a lot of them expire in March. So we're going to see what happens. So they got two choices, Richard. They either pay or they don't pay, right? Mm-hmm. So this pie here is going to break this down, and we'll kind of see what the landscape is of what's going on. So 6.7 million forbearances. So this is the stuff that's pre-COVID and the stuff that's post-COVID. So this data is up to date as of January 19th of, starting in January 19th of 2020, this is showing what the forbearances are. So this is about a full year of data coming through. So out of 6.7 million forbearances, the big green part of the pie says removed, expired, performing 41%. So that's a positive thing. That means the people that have gotten in forbearance, they either their time expired and they start to reperform, or they just reperformed while they're in forbearance and they don't need to be in forbearance anymore. Another 11%, if you notice the gray wedge there, says paid off, 710,000 or 11%. So this is a positive indicator to show that about 52% of all these forbearances have righted the ship, right? They've got resolved. Reperforming. Exactly. Right. Mm-hmm. So what do you think the payoffs came from, Richard?
What are the payoffs? Well, gee, I would guess that it would have something to do with really low interest rates lately.
Yeah. Ding, 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 right? Mm-hmm. I heard somebody got a...
And the fact that FHA, right, FHA kind of loosened their standards a little bit.
Yeah. And coincidentally, if you dive into this data a little bit deeper, you'll see that the FHA loans are the ones that typically have the borrowers that we'll just call them the weakest borrowers, because like you said, Richard, they have a skinny way they can get into a loan. They aren't going through a lot of the regulation of the bigger banks that have to have a 720 credit score and the 20% down to get a conventional loan. So those are the loans that we would typically see. So more of those are in forbearance than there are the other loans that have different requirements. So you look at it this way, 52% of these loans that are in forbearance are coming out for those two reasons. And that is a really, really good sign. So whatever is left, 52% of that when it expires are probably going to come out ahead. Is
skinny a technical term?
It is. It has been in encyclopedia.
Okay, just want to make sure.
And Webster's dictionary, skinny.
Okay.
And it's just for note investing.
Okay. All right. Just want to make sure. All right.
Right on.
This last, keep you on the straight and narrow.
I appreciate that, man. You got to keep me on my toes, man.
You've got to have good information here.
That's right. Got to have legal jargon too. And that was kind of legal jargon / note jargon.
Skinny.
So, and I've coined it. No one else take it.
Okay.
All right. This is the last chart I have. I promise. I know people probably get PowerPoint to death with this stuff. Black Knight has some cool data to show us at the end of all this. So we all have heard about the low interest rates, the definite appreciation of homes have been going up across the country, and the inventory of homes listing for sale has gone down quite a bit. So we see that the appreciation has gone up 15.7% since I can't read what that number is from the beginning of the chart. But whatever normal is, it's jumped up quite a bit. So the median home price, I keep saying appreciation, I meant to say median home price has gone up quite a bit. So you can see that inventory has gotten a lot lower and lower and lower. And when we thought it went lower, it continued to go lower. And we see that there's not really a lot of days on market on homes too when they start listing. So what can we gather from this, Richard? I mean, I have my 2 cents on it. What do you gather from having high median home price getting higher and higher and higher and very low inventory?
I think that prices are going to go even higher, and demand is going to stay pretty constantly strong. So I would think a cratering of the market is probably not going to happen.
Okay. It would seem like people want to stay in their homes because, I mean, that gold keeps rising in value, right?
That's right. It keeps rising in value, and in a lot of instances, rents are higher than mortgage payments, and so why would you want to move? And
exactly,
you're going to do everything you can to stay where you are.
Huh? That couldn't be spoken better myself. All right, Richard. I think we are. If I can get to my slide here. Let's talk about the training course. So I do get asked this question a lot, and it's been asked to me for the last 3 or 4 years if I have any training. And well, I'm coming up with some training. I found that, Richard, a lot of people are looking for the fundamentals of notes. They don't want to become a note business, but they just want to know enough not to be dangerous. And it's great when you have a note pro like me or like Richard that's helping you along or answering your questions for you. But wouldn't you like to know the information yourself and be confident to do your own due diligence and stuff on it? Well, this is what a course is going to provide for you. So it's focusing on the fundamentals of the note business. It's going to be a quick course. It's not going to be a very long course, but it's going to be pretty impactful, and you're going to get a lot of information from it, and you're going to be quizzed on it as well. So I call this course the Constant Cash Flow. As you can see, you just turn on the faucet, and the idea is just to learn about cash flow, right? So it's in real estate note investing. So the things that we say in the note business compared to anything else is that there's no tenants, toilets, and trash. You can build your own bank. You're creating generational wealth. And heck, it's less liability and a lot more security, right? You're investing your money in something, and you have collateral that's worth a lot more than what you have invested into it. I'm all good with that. That's a lot of security and a lot of low risk for me. I like that. So it's from the basics to being kind of like a deal architect, where you can look at a deal like Richard has a case study that we're going to talk about a subject to, and we'll explain what that is in a minute. And you can learn how to see opportunities that you can otherwise wouldn't see when you look at houses to buy, right? So what we're going to cover is you're going to drill down and be like, what the heck are notes? We're going to really talk about what notes are. We're going to talk about why would you invest in notes? We're going to talk about how do you invest in notes and learn how to do that. And then using your self-directed IRA, your retirement account, to boost your wealth. Okay, this constant cash flow, it's going to be a pre-recorded 4-course video series, and you're going to go through the video series just like you would in any educational course. You're going to take a quiz or a test at the end to make sure that you really got these fundamentals down. And if you don't pass, well, you got to go through it again, and you got to relearn it until you pass. So we're going to hold you accountable.
Do I have to pay for it again?
Yeah. No. Yes, you do. This is recorded, right? Yes.
That's right. That's right.
So we're going to price it around $1,000, but since we don't have it launched yet, we're going to offer a pre-sale if anyone's interested in it. Definitely get a hold of me, Justin at brightpathnotes.com, and we will get you on the list for when it is going live, that you'll be the first people to join. In addition to that, we realize that people will want more of a coaching or a mentorship type of program. So we're going to meet you in the middle here. We're going to have a subscription model that can be an add-on to this, right? So we're going to give you 6 live training webinars. It's going to be on an annual basis. So you choose to pay as you go. You can pay per training webinar. You can pay as an annual basis. So we'll be going over case studies. We'll be drilling down on a specific topic and kind of going over in more detail exactly a deal, like maybe the deal that we're going to be talking about in a minute with Richard. We're going to be going over the mechanics of that, and so you can learn how to do that. There's also a portfolio software that you can purchase to help manage the note investments that you have. It's a great piece of software. It's tied into Podio to where you can use this. It will be an app on your phone. It's pretty fancy, and it'll give you a checklist of when you buy notes, and you can go down the list and be like, I've done this, 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 and this, and I'm followed up on this, and it has a bunch of features in there that are just, it's too much to talk about right now. If you get into either one of those for an additional subscription model, you're also going to be a part of a private Facebook group as well. It's going to be a community of people that are all invested in a program like this. With myself and Richard will be in this as well. To ask questions and to be in a community that you can ask these questions in, trade deals to each other, or be a part of deals, or buy deals from people, sell deals to people in the group as well. So that'll be fun. So without further ado, Richard, let's get into your case study.
All right. So this is a little house in Scottsdale, Arizona, and a associate of Justin's and mine are buying this house, and he's buying it with the existing mortgage on it, and that's called buying it sub 2. Now, why would you want to do that, Justin? Why would you want to buy a house subject to somebody else's mortgage?
Well, I think that you don't have to go get out and get your own mortgage for it.
That's right.
You know, you probably don't have to pay lender fees. It's just already set up and ready to go. So you don't have to waste a lot of time, because it might take 30 or 45 days to get a loan, or a private money loan, or from an institutional hard money lender. I mean, that's kind of what I'm thinking.
That's right. And you're very right. And it's always difficult to raise money from somebody else. And quite frankly, it's going to be more expensive, because the mortgage on this house might be at 3 or 4%. Okay. And nobody's going to give you money at 3 or 4%. So if you can assume that loan and use it, you A, have to raise less money, but B, you can charge an overage on that and make more money on that overage amount.
Let's talk about that.
Okay. So the seller is willing to sell this house for $425,000. Now, quite often when people sell houses like this, they've got a couple of hot buttons. And one of the seller's hot buttons was the down payment. And that's why we have it in blue here. He absolutely wanted $25,000. And said, okay, we agree to that. And he also absolutely wanted $1,500 a month. That was two of his real hot buttons. Now, you're going to see in just a minute that we may have to do some finagling to get there, but we can get there. Okay. And he also said he wanted an interest rate of 3%. And so we're going to sort of give him a rate of 3%. Okay. So And he said he also wanted a balloon of 10 years. So we could have any amortization. We could have a 20-year
Yeah.
or 30-year amortization. But he basically wanted to be paid back in 10 years. So we agreed to that.
Okay.
So on our buy side, so we're buying it from, and these deals have what's called a buy side and a sell side, where we're
Okay.
buying it under the terms that I just discussed. And then we're going to talk in just a second about the sell side. So we bought it for $425. We had to give our seller $25,000 down. So we have a mortgage amount of $400,000. So we have to meet a payment of $1,500. So we're trying to figure out, well, how do we do this? Scratching our heads a little bit.
Right.
And so we said, well, all right, we can come up with a loan that's 360 months, that's 30 years. And basically for 96 months, Mr. Seller, we can only give you 2.11% interest. And he's going, gosh, that's not great. That's really not what I wanted. But we offset that by saying, well, for the remainder term, we will give you 4%. And he said, okay, I agree to that. I like that. Now, this has two real benefits.
Okay.
One is that when you have a lower interest rate up front, it means that more of your payment is going towards principal.
Principal. Right.
So our principal is being reduced at a much quicker schedule than it is on the seller's side. In other words, his mortgage is clunking along at 30 years and, whatever rate. So he's willing to do that because he's still getting his $1,500 a month.
Okay.
That lasts for 96 months. Then we start paying him 4%.
Okay.
At which time his payment goes up to $1,800 a month. And he's very happy with that.
Okay.
And we're going to do that for another 84 months. So that's going to mean that we're going to be able to meet his balloon period. And at the end of that period, we will have, we need that last slide. Yeah. We will have to pay him $244,105. That'll be our balloon payment to him at that time.
Okay. So for 96 months, you're going to be paying a 2.11% interest rate, which is $1,500 a month.
Correct.
And then after that, the balloon is due.
Well, no, after that, we're going to pay him 4% for another 84 months, which gives him $1,805. So he's actually happier. He's getting a higher rate during that time. And what that enables us to do is to lower lower interest rate up front allows us to have a lower payoff at the balloon period. And you're going to see the benefit of that in just a couple of minutes.
Right on. Very creative.
So let's go to the sell side. So we go out to the market and we say, market, what will you give me for this house? And somebody's going to give us $425,000, which, if I remember correctly, that's what we paid for it. So how are we making any money?
Right.
Well, we negotiate a down payment of $50,000.
Okay.
Wait a minute. We only had to pay $25,000 down, but we just collected $50,000. So let's move on.
Right on.
So our new buyer is going to have a loan amount of $375,000, and we're going to charge him a market rate of 6%. So his monthly payment to us is going to be $2,248 for the term of the loan, which is surprisingly 180 months, which is on a 360-year or 360-month term.
Okay. 15 years.
Right. So we're collecting $2,228. And as you saw before, we're only paying for the first period $1,500 a month. And then after that, we're paying roughly $1,800 a month. So our loan at our balloon that he owes us at The end of the 180 months is 266,433. Now, the next slide is going to show us the benefit of what we got out of this total deal. And remember, we have no money in this deal.
Right.
We don't have a nickel. So we got a down payment of $25,000.
Okay.
All right.
That's what we owe when we buy it, right?
Right. We, on our sell side, we sold it for 50. So ching ching, we made $25,000. That's what we put in our pocket up front. On an ongoing basis, for the first 96 months, we were only paying out $1,500. And so we're making $748 for that first period.
A positive cash flow.
Positive cash flow.
Got
and
it.
for months 97 to 180, we're making $443. Now, that's not a lot, but we don't have any money in this deal, right?
Right.
And so on our exit at the end of 180 months, our liability, or what we have to pay our borrower, is what our buyer has to pay us is $266,000. We owe $244,000 roughly. So cha-ching, we get to put another $22,328 in our pocket. Not a bad day's work for something that's totally passive that we didn't have to put a nickel into.
And that's the impressive part. You didn't have to put anything into it. And you made 25 up front. You had monthly positive cash flow for however many, 15 years, let's say, worst case scenario. And then the balloon is owed on both sides for the person that you sold it to, and what you owe is a debt service, and the remainder is $22,300. So you add all those numbers up, and that's pretty nice little chunk of change.
Yeah, and every deal is different and structured differently. This obviously, for illustration's sake, is a very, very simple deal, but the concepts are all the same. And you can see that if you put together 3 or 4 of these deals a year, that's not bad.
I think so. Right. I think I like it. I like it a lot. That's pretty creative. If you guys have any questions about that, feel free to chime in, and we'll definitely beat that up and answer whatever we went through. I know that was a little advanced for people that are on the watching this right now, but trust me, this can get a lot more convoluted than that. But at the end of the day, Richard, that was a brilliant case study. You took something, you saw an opportunity, you figured out, hey, I don't have to put any money in this deal. I found someone to buy this. Why not? Put a little bit of effort into marketing, and look what happens. You got a nice little situation for you.
Yeah, and you can do these by a good way to source these is look for FSBO sales, for sale by owner.
Okay.
Because a lot of people are willing to sell, especially if we do slide into a market. If you've got a really accelerating market, it's a little bit difficult to do. But if you've got a project that's been sitting for a while, you can actually overpay a little bit for something like this. I mean, if you take this a step further, you could have actually sold it for $400,000, which would have been $25,000 less than you paid for it, right? And still make the numbers work. You wouldn't get the $25,000 pop up front, but you get all that other income. We got a question here. Let me show that question. You can read that off.
All right. Is anything recorded at the county? Well, the answer is yes. So the underlying mortgage that we'll say Richard is getting subject to is already recorded with the county. There's already a lien that shows on the property. Now, what Richard does is he wraps a mortgage around that mortgage, and that's what he is selling. Okay. Now, that mortgage can be recorded, but doesn't have to be recorded, right, Richard?
Right. Does not have to be. And there are advantages and disadvantages to that. Let's just leave it at that at this point. So.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's a great question, but the mortgage that he has created around that mortgage, he didn't have to record it. Better known as a land contract.
Right. So Aldo has another question for us here.
Okay.
And actually, since this is directed specifically at this deal, I'll take this one.
Sure.
It's how motivated was the seller, and how long was the house on the market? The seller was very motivated. Actually, he got market rate for his house, so it didn't have to sit on the market all that long. And one of the other, when you are talking with people about these purchases are not instant purchases. In other words, you don't sit down with the person and say, hey, Justin, would you like to sell this for 40? Would you like these terms? And da, 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 da. You sort of find out about their selling, find out what their terms are, find out, you say, well, would you want to gain income on an ongoing basis for a while, and maybe not pay off the mortgage immediately? And a lot of people are amenable to that. They're very, very amenable to knowing that they're going to get a pop up front, because this guy got $25,000 plus ongoing income. So that's something that this seller really wanted. I think this particular house was on the market for maybe 2 months, something like that. It was only on the market a month before they were contacted, and then it took a month to negotiate the deal.
Yeah.
We have several other questions here. Let's see.
Sure.
Richard says, that seems like a long time to wait for the payoff. I don't know. I put $25,000 in my pocket up front, and I got continued cash flow, and I got $22,000 at the end. I don't think it's a very long time to wait. So if you want to rephrase that, it's not a huge pop. Some of these you can get huge pops up front, but this is what I would call a moderately successful sub 2 deal.
Yeah, it'd be different if you had a lot of money tied up in the deal, right? But with having no money in the deal, you get money up front, you make a little bit of positive cash flow in between. Like you said before, Richard Thornton, if you have 4 or 5 of those a year that come into your lap, I mean, this could be a part-time gig, right?
Right.
So I think it's finding these opportunities, and not every property that you look at to purchase is going to fall into this beautiful category of having no money in the deal, making positive cash flow, making money up front, and having money in the end. It just doesn't happen all the time like that. But when it does, these are the types of things that you're becoming a deal architect that you can see now and be like, oh, wow, if they just want $25,000 up front, $1,500 a month, that makes them happy for a while, we'll figure out a way around it. Work with their hot buttons, as you called it, Richard. That was a great case study and great job.
So I think Noah has a question here.
Okay.
It says, how will the purchaser of the home be able to pay off the balloon when it comes due? Well, that question applies to any balloon payment.
Yep.
So hopefully he's got a job and financing, and can maybe go out and get an FHA loan, or any of a number of situations, and or maybe he's actually saved up to pay that down a little bit more, and we'll get a lower mortgage. There's a bunch of different ways that somebody can pay off a balloon. Yeah.
Yes. And then we can probably sell the loan too, right?
You can sell the loan.
So there's a couple different ways to get out of it. That's a good question, though. Everybody, Richard, Noah. All right. Let's go ahead and move on to the next one. If you have more questions about that case study, please ask them, and we'll circle back to them towards the end if you like. We can drill down a little deeper. My computer will work sometime here. There we go. All right. So I call this trust but verify. So I had a situation to where I bought a note. I want to say it was about a couple weeks ago. I just funded a deal, came through, and when you're doing your due diligence, you can get lost in the weeds sometimes. So I typically don't look at one deal at a time, Richard, probably like yourself. I'm looking at several deals, and I'm doing due diligence on a lot of them. So I caught myself at a red light, not looking, if you will. So this is kind of a little fun, little I won't call it a case study, but we'll call it a due diligence, trust but verify situation here. So when I go look at some of these properties that I'm buying, there's any notes that I'm buying, these properties are probably worth less than $80,000 for the majority of them that I'm buying. And the reason for that is I feel like I get a better bang for my buck, meaning they end up being a little bit higher interest rates, and I can really find some good borrowers in those deals. So it works out great for me. Instead of buying a loan that's at 2%, why not buy a loan that's 6, 7, 8, 9, maybe even 10% at interest rate, right? So it sounds all good. So when I get a property inspection, I'm just having somebody go out to the property and they're just taking a picture of the house for me, maybe some different angles. They're supposed to be verifying the address. So I'm not worried about property value. I'm not worried about that aspect. If I'm worried about the collateral and what does it look like, and if there's damages, how do I assess what those damages are before I buy that note, right? This is one of the pictures that I got. So I have this
pretty
note.
Tough to see what's going on there.
Yes. So this is from a professional photographer, definitely, with their Fisher Price camera. And this is what happens. You sometimes these people are just driving by and they'll take a picture that's a blur, and they obviously are going to redo this for me, and they're going to get it right because I'm not going to pay for it, right? But I do get a sense that what the heck's going on here, Richard? Like, this isn't really what I thought I was going to see when I got a picture of this property. So I'm like, can I see some different angles? Can I really get a clear picture as to what's going on? Because I see there's a dumpster. I can see there's a bunch of trash in the yard. I see there's yellow tape going on there. I see there's a flipped over small pontoon boat or something right there. So I don't really know what's going on. So like, okay, let me give you some clear pictures. I'm like, okay, where did these pictures come from? Why weren't those sent to me the first time? Those are a lot clearer, right? So you can see there's a tree that's been mowed down. They've got limbs everywhere. You can see in the back towards the building that there looks like there's a window missing and stuff. You can tell there's a major rehab project going on here. And so I'm asking these questions like, what is the deal here? Like, what is going on? So I got a couple of ideas. This could be good. Well, this could be bad, right? This could be a house that's condemned and maybe the city is going to take it over. Or maybe this is a rehabber that just bought this house and is putting a lot of money into it to flip it or something. That could be something to where I can get in, I can buy this loan, and then somebody can pay it off and I can get paid off really quickly, right? So my time value of money shoots my return up quite a bit. So I do a little bit more investigating and I realize, wait a minute, the last BPO looked like this. So now I'm scratching my head, Richard, and I'm going like, is this the right house or was that remodel the right house? So I get on Google Maps and I'm driving the Google car and I'm turning the road and I'm looking at the property that you see in this picture. I believe it's the correct property. And I'd go to the other property just down the street, like 4 or 5 houses, and I see that property under construction and stuff. And I look at the addresses and I look on a couple different sites. I'm like, something's not adding up. So they must have had the addresses like 494. So on one street it was 494 and the other street it was 494, but they were different names. So somebody got confused here. So because I didn't remember what the old BPO looked like, I didn't catch it at first. So I'm just wasting a lot of time in emails and stuff. And I'm just laughing at myself now going, man, if I just would have looked at the old BPO, I would have said, hey, look, this isn't the right house. You obviously took a picture of the wrong house. So it took me down a rabbit trail of not really needing to worry about stuff. So I got a new updated picture and that's what it looked like. And I was like, okay, this makes more sense. I can see from USPS that this should be the right delivery address. And this is what the old BPO was. And a different person went out there to take pictures and they verified that is the right address. So it's just kind of funny.
Aldo's got a question about that. Aldo, we also have several other questions that we will refer back to. We're not ignoring them, but this one is right now. So there's your question from Aldo.
Is that from a local realtor created that BPO photo? Well, I'm assuming so. A lot of local REO realtors will take these photographs for these BPOs, or in my case, for this purpose, is property inspection, and they'll go by there. There are people that just specialize in taking photographs of whether it's houses or boats or motorcycles or cars or what have you for people that are investing in those objects, if you will, from a different state. I was under the assumption this was a realtor, and that's typically who is taking those photos. We call them drive-by realtors because they'll typically just take a photo from their car and move on. I mean, in their defense, honestly, they're not making a lot of money for these reports, so they're going to put, not a lot of effort into it. Sometimes you'll get some really good sharp images and stuff, and if they come up super bad, like the first one did, you just ask them politely, hey, look, can you take some more pictures, or can you get something clear? Like, I really can't see what's going on here, and they understand. Sometimes it's a thing where they're loading their images up, and then the image gets truncated to where it becomes a lower resolution than what they really took it as. So in their defense, I don't want to pick on them too much.
How often do you get a picture of the wrong house, Justin?
I haven't had one of those in a while. That's probably one out of every probably 100 that I'm doing. I'd probably get the wrong house. I don't know. What do you experience?
I'd say about the same.
Not very often, but when it
not
does,
very often. Yeah, you have to be careful. I made the erroneous assumption once, more than once actually, that the house that I was buying the note on was going to look better than it did online, because the online picture was from, say, 2010.
Oh,
and
okay.
I thought, oh, surely it must look much better now, only to find out that when I bought the BPO, the house was in much worse condition.
Oh, geez.
And so you do have to be careful and do your due diligence.
Yep. So it is important to see how it looks like today. There was one that we looked at, excuse me, earlier this year. I'm sorry, later last year in 2020, maybe it was November or October, where the house looked really good from one point of view, like the street view. And when you turn the corner a little bit, you notice the whole damn back of the roof was missing. It was just tarped up. And all the windows were boarded up with, what's that, foam board?
Right.
You know what I'm talking about? And so it's just funny how you get one view and you're like, oh, wow, that's not a bad piece of collateral. I like it. That's good. And you turn the corner like, whoa, what happened here?
Right.
So you want to get pictures of the front, the sides, and the back if you can. And you want to get pictures of the neighbors or looking down the street so you can see if there's any boarded up homes. I always ask that as well. But can you tell me, like, what is the street look like? Do you feel like you had to have a gun to drive by there? You know,
that's what Google cars are for, right?
Right. So you don't have to do it.
Yeah. I mean, you got really good handling car there. You're just kind of cruising along. Nice ride. So.
And they take pictures of people outside and they blur their faces out. It's funny.
That's right. That's the way I feel some mornings when I get
Or
up.
sometimes they give a nice wave to the camera.
That's right. Or something else.
Something else. A bird might be flying.
That's right. That's right.
So that's kind of my thing there for that. So real quick, we're going to jump back into some questions that we have, but we wanted to let you guys know that here's Richard's email, richard@amnotecap.com. There's me, Justin Bogard, justin@brightpathnotes.com. Don't forget to follow Bright Path Notes on our Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram page. Follow us on social media. We always provide some good content out there. The next meetup is going to be March 10th, 6 to 8 p.m. on Wednesday. This is Eastern Standard Time. It's going to be live on YouTube and our Facebook page as well, our Facebook group. Speaking of Facebook group, we do have a Be the Bank Real Estate Note Investing Facebook group. That is a private group for this meetup for you guys to talk about deals and bring up questions that we can talk about during this meetup. So Richard, let's go back to answer some of those questions about your case study, because I think we missed a couple of them.
Okay. Yeah. And also I should say, if you've got other questions, I've probably got about 20 videos or something like that are just explain various parts of note investing on my YouTube channel, which is just put in American Note Capital.
American Note Capital. Cool.
Right. Okay. So Aldo again, regarding the house that I looked at, says, was the house free and clear from the seller or still equity? There was debt on the property. That's what we assumed. That's how you can do a sub 2. So you're not creating a new mortgage. What you're doing in the sense that you're thinking here, you're actually assuming or taking over the existing mortgage. Michael says, if needed, what would a foreclosure look like? Well, you would be a sort of a two-step. I'm not quite sure who you're asking about foreclosing on, because you could, if the seller were in trouble, that would be one foreclosure. If your buyer was in foreclosure, that would be a different type. It would be a standard foreclosure. If you had to foreclose on your buyer, you can go through the courts, and the courts will, depending if you have a contract for deed, land agreement, go through the regular courts. If your seller was actually going through foreclosure for whatever reason, which would be not highly unlikely, but unlikely because you're helping him make his payments. So
That means you wouldn't be making the payment, right, Richard?
that's right. That means that you would be making the payments. So something else is going on in his life. Basically, what you do is you do everything you could to bring that current and keep it out of foreclosure. So you wouldn't get there is my point.
Yeah, because you're taking that mortgage subject to.
Right.
So that means that Richard Thornton isn't on the hook at all.
Right.
It's actually the original borrower that's on the hook. So it's a very trusting process to do a sub to. They have to be pretty much in a dire situation or very motivated situation to want to get out, to exit out of this. And this is why Richard had to come up with this creative way to get in and out of this deal with basically no money into it, so everyone's happy. And he made enough of a spread to where he was protected, to where once that payoff happens, Richard doesn't have to worry about ponying up any more money. He did his math right and didn't oversell it. So
right. And I mean, a lot of people really like the idea of continued income. I mean, let's face it, it's like rent without the 3 T's. You don't have to do, is why people buy notes in the first place. You don't have to have toilets, tenants, and turnover. So that's very appealing to somebody, especially if they're a little bit older and maybe they've got some other sources of income or something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. So great case study today. Thanks for hopping on with me.
Glad to.
Hope we added some value to those of you on the call. We don't have to hop off right now, but we want to make sure that all the questions are answered. If you have a general question about note investing, this is your time to chime in and do this. If not, you can ask a question about some of the other stuff that we talked about today. You want to talk about the mortgage industry? We're happy to sit on the call and talk about that a little bit more. We don't want to overdo it for you guys on the call today. We think an hour is pretty good for a presentation, but we definitely love the end of this for Q&A. So we had a lot of great conversations today. Thanks everyone for mentioning all your questions that you had today. Don't forget to reach out to me or Richard if you got questions. We're definitely here to help you guys, or need help getting into deals. Either one of us can help you get into some deals as well. So I don't think I see anything else on the board, Richard. Actually, I think I just see one more.
Let's see. Okay, Michael's got a question, right? Whoops, sorry. How did Richard find the note? Well, it wasn't a matter of finding the note. It was a matter of finding a house for sale. And this person had listed the house, had a mortgage on it. And so when I inquired about buying the house, he simply said, look, could I assume your note? And he really didn't know what that was all about. So we just talked about it and explained it and took it from there.
Perfect.
Yeah. And thank you, Aldo. Aldo has thanked us both. Richard Graham, okay, has clicked in. I'll let you take this one, Justin.
Just reach out to me, Justin, at brightpathnotes.com, and I'll definitely get you in on the list for pre-sales. And then once we start getting ready to go live, we'll obviously take money at the time. We don't want to take your money too early. So I'll leave it in the chat here. Richard?
Yeah.
So hopefully that shows up there.
You showed up on my side.
Sweet. We're still getting used to StreamYard's the platform that we're using here to push out. You're welcome, Richard. So this has been a great meetup tonight, guys. We'll discuss, kind of hang out here for a few more minutes, and if you have any more any more questions that pop up, be happy to answer them. Richard, anything else exciting going on in your neck of the woods?
Well, so people might find this a little bit amazing if they're based in the Midwest, but there's a huge exodus thanks to COVID out of San Francisco. You can buy a condo for what's considered now dirt cheap in San Francisco because people want out. Yeah. But if you want to buy a house in the burbs, especially if it's got even just a little yard, in Marin County, you're probably looking for, I'm talking about regular, just sort of normal houses. $1,000 to $1,200 a square foot. So do the math. It's kind of expensive, and the market is just roaring out here.
It's a different world out there, huh?
It's a different world. That's right.
Noah's got a question here. He wants to know how you found the buyer to that property when you did that wrap mortgage.
Okay. You know what? You just Facebook is your friend. Facebook Marketplace. I've got an associate who is in Texas, and he's a flipper. And he is actually selling 150 houses a year on Facebook.
Oh.
No commissions or anything like that. He doesn't give them to a realtor at all. Facebook Marketplace is pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Craigslist also is good, but Facebook Marketplace is really taken off.
Yeah, it seems like if somebody has a smartphone and they use apps, they're more than likely going to be on Facebook. I know realize not everybody's on Facebook, but yeah, I didn't believe it at first until I started doing stuff on Facebook Marketplace, and that's actually how I created the last loan I created was on a vacant land parcel in Florida.
Right.
So
let's see. Justin, here's a question from you from Aldo.
All right. I invest in performing loans first positions right now. When I first got in the business, I did performing and non-performing. And then I found out quickly that I didn't really like non-performing that much. It took a lot of time. I burned a lot of candle at the both ends there with non-performing. Right now, I don't see a lot of non-performing priced very well. A lot of people that want to get in the note business, they want to do non-performing. This is just my soapbox on it, if you will. So we don't do non-performing right now for those reasons. Now, when you see some of these forbearances that aren't going to make it through reperforming and they need to go through foreclosure, you're going to see more of a wave of non-performing loans. Now, don't think that's going to happen the next month, or if stuff is going to expire in March, that you're going to see it in April. You're not going to see it for a little bit, and we may not see it for a while. Now, what's that timeline? I don't know, but I can't imagine we're going to see a good pool of non-performing loans come by anytime soon. I'm thinking towards the end of summer, maybe next fall, we'll probably start seeing some that'll be at our level where we can play with. Because remember, these things are gobbled up from like Goldman Sachs, right? And Fannie and Freddie, and they sell them off, and they sell them off to another fund and another fund. And so it takes a while to get to a level where we can play at as well. So that's another part of the charge-off game, I guess you can call it, right, Richard?
Right. And just so we're clear here, for anybody who's just getting started, PN, as you see here, is performing note. NPN is non-performing note. Yeah. First trust or first lien has the first position, and you can have a additional lien or mortgage on the property, which is called a second. Aldo, again.
Right.
Go ahead.
What type of return are you getting on performing loans? Well, kind of depends on what you're buying it for. We've had performing loans that we get, 6, 7, 8% on. We've had some that we get over 10% on. Depends on how hairy the deal is, right? You can buy a piece of real estate really cheap. Well, it's probably got a lot of problems for it. Or you can buy a piece of real estate for a premium, and it's probably a turnkey type of investment. So it's kind of all over the board. But traditionally, someone like yourself that's investing in these loans, you're probably going to make 6 to 8% if you want to be really passive and partner with somebody like me or Richard with a partial, or then above that, you might make 7, 8, sometimes 9%. If you're in the note business and you're educated and you really have a good in with a hedge fund, you can make a little bit more money than that. But that comes with a lot of experience and training and knowledge, and most importantly, networking. It takes a while to build these relationships with some of these bigger funds so that you can get in there and get these deals, right?
Yeah, for sure. And also, you got to be careful. I got a call. I think this person actually called you. He was let's just say he was sort of a hot shot, right? He wasn't in the field, was in the medical area. And I think he called you and me, Justin. And he said, I found this deal on PaperStack for 13%. And, da. And so I said, all right, just show me what you got here. And so we both got online and I went through it. And long story short, it looked nice initially. The poverty rate in the city was approaching 40%.
Oh, wow.
It was the nicest house. in the city by far, and there were no exits on this thing. So you better get 13%, because if that borrower defaults on you, you're toast. You're sitting on a house that you can't do anything with.
Yeah, although I don't invest in second liens, not because I don't find any value in them, because honestly, there's a lot of things you can do in this note business and invest in, and they're all good and they're all great. But you kind of have to focus on one thing. It's hard to invest yourself into all these different types of loans, whether it's performing, non-performing first or seconds, or creative loans, wrap loans, sub twos, anything like that. It's all good. It's just I focus more on performing. So there's a lot of people that make good money in second liens. I'll tell you that. There's a lot of good money.
So why don't you go ahead with Aldo's second question?
All right. So the higher the risk, the higher the rewards. Exactly. Are you more passive? Do you want lower risk, more security? Or are you a risk taker? Do you want to be more active in the business? All those things will dictate your yield or your return on any of these loans. So I can take risks because, number one, I know how to exit my way out of them. I know what could be a problem and how to work through it quickly than some other people might not be able to. So it's just all matter of risk, reward.
Right. And part of the challenge is to determine what the true risk is, because sometimes things are hiding. I bought a note last year that had a lien on it that did not show up, and basically sort of ruined my return on it. It happens. We still get stinkers.
Yeah.
So Aldo says, Richard, the image of your home page on your website, is that from your house in Petaluma? I don't think so. Thanks, Aldo.
Somebody's stalking you, Richard.
That's right.
You better have take all your stuff down. That's going to come back to bite you.
That's right.
On the internet.
Although I do, if you go to my website, there's a picture of a guy with a computer and his feet kicked up, and he's on the beach. And I wish I was that guy. That's for sure.
Yeah. It's just right outside the window to your left, right, Richard?
That's right. That's right. The waves are just slapping up here.
All right. We've had a lot of great feedback, a lot of good comments today. Definitely appreciate all that. Richard, I think it's time for us to sign off here.
Very good, sir. I enjoyed it as always, and appreciate the opportunity, and would love to join you in the future.
Absolutely. We're definitely going to have you on again. You've been wealth of knowledge, and I love your case studies. So I'm Justin Bogard from Bright Path Notes. You can reach me at justin@brightpathnotes.com. Richard, why don't you go ahead and give your info real quick? Yeah,
Richard Thornton, Richard at amnotecap.com. You can find me on YouTube, American Note Capital, and then just put in amnote.com and you can pull up my website.
All right, guys. Until March, we will see you all later. Have a good one, guys.
Bye, everybody.